This episode is brought to you by Whitaker Garage Doors, your one-stop shop for all things garage doors, proudly based in Peekskill, New York. Your home is a direct reflection of your personal style, and let's face it, your garage doors are the first thing people see when they pull up your driveway. Whether you're looking for the timeless charm of a classic carriage house door or the clean, sleek look of a basic wood finish, Whitaker Garage Doors offers traditional options for every taste and budget. I can personally vouch for their incredible service. When I had my own garage doors done, I was blown away by their timeliness, professionalism, and overall respect for their clients. Jonathan, Cassara, and their entire team are top-notch, and they really go the extra mile to ensure you're happy with the final result. So if you're in the market for a new garage door or need some repairs, give them a call or find them on Instagram at Whitaker_doors. Don't forget to tell them you're a friend of Dave's over at the No Snooze podcast. Whitaker Doors. You won't regret it. Now, back to the epi. If you're looking to work out and support a great cause, Fit for Duty is for you. Join us on May 17th at the Sale House in Tarrytown at 9 a.m. for a fun morning of fitness, food, and music. Come out and join Mike Coonahan, Mike Trotter, and the Reps for Responders team for a unique experience featuring a cold plunge, a police academy-style workout, brunch, and great music. Reps for Responders focuses on improving the physical and emotional survivability skills of first responders, helping them make responsible decisions both on the job and in their personal lives. Their services support the mental health and well-being of police officers, firefighters, EMS, EMTs, correction officers, military personnel, and nurses, active and volunteer, with the ultimate goal of reducing suicide rates within the first responder community. There are ticket options to work out and brunch or just to spectate and come eat with the crew. You can grab yours at fitforduty.repsforresponders.org. If you're interested in showcasing your business, sponsorship opportunities are still available. For more information, you can find them on Instagram at repsforresponders. This is an event you don't want to miss, so get your tickets today, and we'll see you out there on May 17th. Adversity, bring it. The struggle, I welcome it. Snooze on life, never that. I am Dave Regina, and this is the No Snooze Podcast. Come on. Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 216. As always, I'm in the booth with a phenomenal three. We have Wayne, El Pastor, Francis, Claudio the Voice, Valenzuela, and I am Dave, the Body, Regina. Let's go. Wayne Francis serves as the lead pastor of the Life Church in Westchester County, New York, just outside of New York City. He's also the visionary behind the former Authentic Church, which merged with the Life Church in 2020. A dynamic communicator with a heart for the local church, Wayne is passionate about helping people discover real life in Jesus. Wayne is the chaplain for the Brooklyn Nets and is set to release his new book, Make Friends with Everyone, in partnership with Nav Press. On top of his ministry work, Wayne is a proud husband to his wife, Claudine, whom he lovingly refers to as Classy, and a father to their two teenage daughters, Haley and Riley. When he's not preaching or ministering, Wayne loves to cycle, and apparently, I've heard he has a knack for turning any floor into a dance floor. I'm extremely excited to have Wayne here today. Welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Bro, it's so good to be in the booth. What are you talking about, man? This is exciting, man.
Listen, so I always start with, kind of how we met, and we have to give a huge shout out to Amanda from Boundless Nutrition.
Shout out Amanda from Boundless. You know where to go if you're in Pleasantville. You got to stop by Boundless, man.
That's right. I met Wayne over a year ago now. Yeah, it was at Amanda's block party, and she was telling me, Dave, you got to meet my pastor. You got to meet my pastor. And it just so happens to, at the time, my girlfriend Catherine and I were really looking for a church.
Yep.
But like anything, I wouldn't say there was resistance to it. But my biggest thing when it came to like finding a home church, I'm like, man, like it's a Sunday.
Yep.
I don't want to travel 40 minutes.
Yep.
And then, you're there for 2 hours, then it's 40 minutes back. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But listen, from the bottom of my heart, man, I just want to say thank you.
Bro.
It was a pleasure meeting you and now connecting with you. Your message is always phenomenal.
Thank you, bro.
I love the human being that you are, and I'm excited.
Thank you, man.
I'm
Such
very
an honor to have met you that day, and shout out to Amanda again. But I just admire you so much. The way you lead your life and your relationship with your girlfriend is just beautiful to watch, and your inspiration to a lot of us because you're just so, your faith and your work is all integrated. A lot of people live in silos, right? So it's like, I got my work life, I got my church life, I got this, but you just seem like a man that's integrated. So shout out to you, man.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. And CV.
CV.
So it was funny, man. When I pulled up, I said, Wayne's on the way. He was like, oh, does he still have the Mini Cooper? I'm like, oh, Wayne.
Yo, and when I pulled up, I was like, why is Claudia outside telling me to come into the driveway? I was just like, I haven't seen him in years, but we used to work together at the White Plains Youth Bureau many years ago. And that's why I was just saying, this is why you got to leave jobs the right way. He's like,
such a good lesson. No, it's true. But what a small world.
Yeah. What's so interesting, we're all remembered more by our exits than our entries. And I was just thinking about that, just seeing, Catherine and all that stuff. It's a big deal. It's a small world, man. Small world.
It really is. I'm going to go here. You don't know where I'm going.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm about that life.
Communication is big for you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And the church is like your family, right?
Yeah.
You're strong on that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So if you weren't going to come home and have dinner with your family one day, you would communicate that to your family, correct?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make that clear because, I'm in church one Sunday and he basically tells us, I'm sure, I don't know if you said see you next week or like something along the lines of like, the next series is going to be really dope. So like, I'm fired up. My boy doesn't show up to church for 3 weeks. And then I find out he's hanging out with Mufasa in Africa.
Yeah.
And didn't tell his family before his departure. So I'm going to allow you the opportunity to clear the air because I had real beef with this. I'm driving home and I'm talking to my girl like, yo, I can't believe Wayne didn't tell me. He's out of here. Mind you, I've only been going to church for 2 months. He didn't tell me he wasn't going to be here. I can't believe this. He showed up on a screen. Like, this is crazy. What are we talking about, bro?
This is so funny. I was out in Wakanda. Hey, you know what the funny thing is? It's so strange. I try not to tell people when I'm not going to be there because sometimes people are like, I'm not coming if you're not there. And I'm like, well, I want them to love our church. I want them to love the family. Whoever's up there, whatever. So, but that's so funny. This Sunday, people were like, where were you, dude? Like 3 weeks. What is going down?
I'm stalking your Instagram. I'm stalking Classy's Instagram. I was on your daughter's Instagram to see what was going on, where he's at, why he didn't tell nobody. And listen, you did a phenomenal job delivering a message through a screen for that first week too.
Thanks.
And that was powerful, man.
Thank you.
And then also the other individuals that you brought in, all part of the church, phenomenal messages.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to clear the air because, you did say that you're a big communicator and, the church is your family. So next time you're going to bounce.
I'm gonna make sure I let everybody know how long I'm going to be gone, especially when it's an extended deal.
Thank you, my brother.
So
all right.
funny.
So now that the beef has been squashed, we can fully jump in.
That was Drake and Kendrick level. Wow.
I'll be very transparent, man. My journey to, I guess becoming a Christian was a real mess.
Yeah.
And faith just has always been in my life, but I didn't really know where to go, what to lean into. Growing up, my father was Catholic.
Yeah.
Right. And you actually met my father. He came to church and he loved it as well.
Yep.
But mother was Jewish.
Wow.
So your boy, I'm very unique.
Yeah, bro.
I was baptized and bar mitzvahed. Dead serious.
Wow.
So like we grew up very Italian, which isn't a religion, but it might as well be, right?
Yeah.
So the routines and the holidays and everything was more like Catholic based because it was Christmas more than it was Hanukkah. And like we were doing all the things. And my father went to church every single week.
Wow.
My entire life.
Wow.
And he would always just say, never, ever, ever give up. And God's got us.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
But for me, that didn't really like resonate, right?
Are your parents still married?
No, they're divorced.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been divorced. They were together for 18 years and then got divorced.
Yeah.
But there was a big misalignment when it came to faith.
Yeah.
Which is something that now I see is an extreme value to share.
Yep.
Right? I guess for me, and I've explained this to my father because he was like, well, why Christian, right? And I said, well, if we're going to look at the Catholic Church versus Christian church, for me, I couldn't really relate.
Right.
One, and this is no disrespect, I'm not leaning anybody or anything like that, but this is my experience. Like, I'm going to go confess my sins to another man. Mm-hmm. And also for me, like, I have failed relationships. Mm-hmm. I have a child. Yep. So if marriage is hard, relationships are hard, being a father is hard, you want me to talk to an individual who's never had the experience to share with me.
Yeah.
That was kind of my moment, like, wow, I need to be in a Christian church. Right. And I have to shout out two specific gentlemen, my barber, Erwin. Erwin Gilliam.
Shout out Erwin.
Do you know Erwin?
No.
Oh, okay. You got to meet him.
Not yet.
And then Pastor James Gregory Thorpe.
I don't know him yet.
Okay, so you got to know these guys.
Shout out to
But
those
they
guys.
were always one to tell me, like, yo, man, the Christian church is waiting for you.
Yeah, bro.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of how I kind of got into the Christian church.
Yeah.
But for you, I want to know, I guess, about your upbringing and how it shaped you to becoming the pastor that you are today.
Yeah, my background is interesting because I didn't grow up in church. My grandmother was like this real Pentecostal, fired up Christian, but she would only take us to church like on Christmas or Easter. My parents would allow for that. I was like a CEO, right? The Christmas and Easter only kind of kid. But when I was around, I don't know, 18, 19, I really started to kind of explore faith because of my friend who, like, he was rotten like me. He was out drinking, smoking a lot, all that stuff, everything that, guys in my neighborhood at the time were doing. But he would go to church. And I'm like, yo, you're doing the same thing I'm out here doing, and you going to church on Sundays. But I was at least still curious that he had a conviction, which says something about when people just have a very devoted, like your dad, just devoted to doing something consistently. It gets people's attention. So he invited me to this like Bible study out in Long Island. And he was like, we're going to have a speaker and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, there might be some good looking chicks I'm going to pull up and, I'm just going to chill. It was first year freshman at college, 18. And man, that night was transformational because I was trying to stump the guy. I didn't really like Christians because they always just seemed like they knew it all. And, it was just always really preachy and all that stuff. So, I'm kind of clapping at the guy like, hey, how come dinosaurs aren't in the Bible? Or, what's wrong with smoking weed? Weed came from the earth. God, I'm just trying to stump him with all these different things. But he was so humble. He would just be like, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that Jesus did X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, if you come back next week, I'll do some more research. And his humility was like convicting to me because I was arrogant, man. And that started my journey. That night, man, I was like, I was feeling so much conviction. I was like, I got to leave. I got to go. And they were like, okay, can we pray for you before you leave? And this group of young people prayed for me. I started crying, and I gave my life to Christ that night. And that's when I started my journey. It wasn't perfect, obviously, afterwards, but I got really committed to Christ like after 2 years of just trying to figure out how do I leave these old patterns, these old habits and all that stuff. And that's how it started.
I love that. Now, I guess talk to somebody who is struggling in their faith, right? Or doesn't have, and this was me, man. This was me. Like, I didn't have a direction. I do want to say I always believed in a higher power, but for me, I wasn't sold on Jesus, right? And I'm not here, and we're not here to sell anybody on Jesus, but, God utilized me. I'm sorry. to get to me, he actually utilized my mother.
Right.
Right? Like I shared with you off air, and a lot of people who've listened to this podcast, they know this story, but my mom was addicted to drugs and alcohol for the first 28 years of my life.
Wow.
Shout out to my mother because she has been sober 6+ years.
Let's go, Mom.
Right?
Let's go.
And she was one that, never really was into Jesus by any means because she was Jewish.
Yeah.
Now she prays on her knees every day.
Really?
Every day. But me and her shared a very deep moment.
Yeah.
Long story short, it was the night before she ended up getting sober.
Yeah.
And I basically said to her, listen, unless a higher power can save you, there's nothing that I can do for you.
Yep.
Wayne, when I tell you that next morning she came into my room and she said, David, I'm ready to get sober.
Yeah.
I felt it.
Yeah.
Right?
There was something
like there was something different about that. Now, if that moment didn't happen, I don't know if I would have went in the direction that I went in. And mind you, my life was a mess at that time.
Yeah.
My past relationship was falling apart. Things in my life, I was drinking heavily, right? Like going out, spending money, just doing all the things to look like my life was perfect because I wanted to impress people. And I was doing things for all the wrong reasons. And literally the next day, we got my mom into a shout out to Sunrise House in New Jersey. We got her there, and 30 days later, she came out. And above her, when we went in, there was a serenity prayer right above her. So to her, and I, like that faith piece, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who hasn't experienced that? And how do they decide to like lean in or not lean in?
Yeah, I don't think it's unhealthy for people to explore their faith in different contexts. Obviously, I had to do the same thing for a little while to figure out whether or not, I believe that the God that's presented in the Holy Bible, Christian, was the God that I wanted to serve. And there's a lot of reasons why I'm a Christian today. But I do think that it's a good thing for people to kind of take a look at different things. Here's what I know. God's looking for us more than we're looking for him. And so if you have a real honest pursuit of who God is, I really believe that God is going to actually lead you and direct you, that all of our steps are ordered by God. So people that are hungry and curious, God's not far from them. I think a lot of times, though, people try to pursue God on their own. And I think we don't pay enough attention to who we have to seek God with. So if you're spiritually curious, you should be around people that actually have a devotion and a faith level that's committed, not just easy speak, right? Because none of us are shaped by just our beliefs. We're shaped by community. That's why coming to church is important, because it's a place that shapes you. And so I'm always like, when people tell me I'm on a spiritual journey, I'm like, well, who are you doing that with? Because you shouldn't be doing it alone. There needs to be some sort of back and forth where you can be sharpened and where your curiosity can actually be challenged. If your curiosity is not challenged, it's just maybe a pursuit of just whimsicalness. You need to be in community with people. Now I'm getting all choked up.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that. And for me, like, that's very relatable because I say it all the time. But now that I'm in my Bible,
right,
it is the best personal and professional development book I've ever read in my life.
100%.
I mean, if I knew this, Wayne,
100%.
if somebody would have told me this back then, I wouldn't have wasted my time. Really? And not that it was a waste of time, but reading all these other books, whereas everything, I mean, you're talking from accountability to consistency to discipline to teamwork, leadership, family. I mean, humility and any love, any word that you think of. It's already been done and it's there for you.
Absolutely.
Which I think is something that I never, because for me, again, I associated God with the Catholic Church.
Right.
Just because of what I saw.
Right.
You know?
And what's interesting about that, like you were making some mentions about, confessing to a person. Now, the Bible does make a case for confession, right? In James, it says we should confess our faults one to another so that we can be healed. I think that's amazing, right? This is an ancient book, and there is psychology out about how when we confess and we don't hide our stuff. But the truth is, if you're going to be in any context that professes Christ, it just needs to be biblical. And I think that's what the Bible does. It gives us a good guideline for how do I measure my faith against what I'm challenged with. So anyways, If you're on a journey right now, I could tell you that it's a really good thing for you to keep doing that. If you're curious, faith will lead you to the right place, but make sure you're in community with some people that have a deeper devotion. Yeah.
I'll also say this. For me, I had a big misconception, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I felt like my life wasn't where I wanted it to be.
Yeah. What were you hopeful for?
And that was holding me back from diving into God, because I'm like, wait, I know that I'm not supposed to be drinking and doing the things. So I'm like, when I switch my habits, then I will commit to this journey that I'm on, right?
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm finding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, God will actually meet you right where you are.
100%.
He met my mom right where she was.
100%.
She didn't have to change in that moment. In that moment, she was still addicted.
100%.
So it's not like she had to change her life to then, be saved, right?
Exactly.
For me, I find that very true for a lot of people that I speak to.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, like, how am I going to be, faithful or believing in God when this is going on in my life, or I'm doing this, or I'm addicted to drugs, or I'm spending my money where I'm not supposed to be. I'm gambling, doing all the things. Can you give the biblical approach to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about your trajectory. It's, are you heading in the direction that's leading toward Christ? Now, the question for many of us is, do we actually want to leave what we are? Because it's not, a day is 1,000 years in the eyes of God, right? Like, it's like nothing. God, our timeline is nothing to God. So we're over here trying to reform ourselves, which is a religious mentality, right? To say, well, I've got to get good before I can get God, when actually you have to get God so that you can get good in some ways. So we're like trying to, reform ourselves instead of partnering with the only person that's going to transfer his righteousness to us. It's not our ability. It's not our own strength model. And so many people get hindered. I'd rather people come to church every Sunday and their life is a mess, and just find community and find a sense of moving in the right direction. That's the thing. It's like, am I walking away inch by inch from the things that are holding me back, things that God is saying, man, I've got better for you? I think that we hold ourselves back too much because we want to be religious. We want to be perfect. We want to be good. Well, no perfect people allowed. God is attracted to messy people. He comes into our context, and that's what I love about at least the Christian faith. It is the God that meets us where we're at instead of us having to get where he is.
I would say, and again, this is from my experience, every believer must struggle and goes through extreme seasons of doubt, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear a moment, maybe if you have one, where you wanted to almost give up on your faith.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you, for me, the past couple of years was rough, right? I ended a relationship, but then once the relationship ended, I at least had like my dog with me, man, in the house. You know what I mean? Like that, my buddy.
Yeah.
And it was just me and him.
Yep.
And then he passes away.
Oh, man.
And it was really, really hard for me because, that was the one thing that I still
some stability
I had, And it was at that moment, I remember questioning many times, why right now, if anything, if God existed, why wouldn't you make my dog extremely healthy? And I remember when he was sick, praying on him, praying over him, touching him like I had some anointing on me to really save this dog. Show me that you're real, show me. And then he passed away. But for me, I took it as a real lesson because God wanted me to be quiet, to get quiet, to find myself in a place where I no longer believed that I could pull through.
Right.
And then what I did, even in those moments where I was feeling really negative, I would throw Joel on, or I would throw Jireh in my ear.
Yeah.
I would listen and worship.
Yeah.
And just slowly over the course of time, I continued with my daily actions. I've always been disciplined and consistent when it came to fitness, but the other aspects of my life was a mess. So I just said, you know what? If I could it's very easy for guys too, and all you gentlemen out there that are in the gym, listen to this. It's very easy for us to go into the gym.
Right.
And if I say, Wayne, do 10 bicep curls,
Yep.
you're like, oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Do one more. Yeah, baby, I'm there. And you think that's impressive, and we focus on that.
Yep.
Now, I just made that switch, and I said, okay, I'm going to take that same mentality and apply it to my emotional intelligence, apply it to my faith journey, apply it to my relationships. When I don't want to do the thing, and I'm fighting with my girlfriend.
Yep.
I'm going to be quiet in that moment.
Yep.
Because it's the same thing as me doing that extra rep, right?
Yep.
When I don't want to listen to my worship and
That's
I don't want to
strong.
read my Bible, I'm going to do it anyway because I know.
That's strong, bro.
So that was for me, right?
Yep.
But for you, was there ever a moment that you really wanted to give up on your faith?
Yeah, there's two moments. The first one was when we first started the church 16 years ago, and I met a guy in our church. He was married to a woman that was a Christian. He's still one of my closest friends to this day. Shout out Rob. But Rob was the person that tested my faith more than anybody, because when I first came to faith in Christ, it was like in this real fundamentalist, like all rules kind of thing. Like it was really, really legalistic. It was bad. And so this guy was brilliant. He had a philosophy degree. So he was really intellectual, but he was at that time very antagonistic toward Christianity. But the thing was, we were starting this church, and homeboy knew how to play bass. So I'd have him play bass every Sunday because we didn't have anybody. I'm like, yo, we need this worship music, dog. So, and nobody knew. So he'd be up there, but we would spend a lot of time. He was actually the dude that got me into cycling. And when I'm telling you, he would ask me some profound questions, or he would push me in such ways intellectually where I didn't have answers for things, or it frustrated me where I had the most extreme doubts. In fact, I had to throw all of my beliefs on a wall and say, okay, what's going to stick because of that guy? And one of the reasons why I'm still a Christian today is because he challenged the fire out of everything that I preached, anything that I thought about in the Bible, and it just all still made sense to me. No matter how far he'd push me, but he was the one that pushed me the most. The second time was when I turned 40, and I had a 3-year, what now I believe was a clinical depression. I just didn't have the tools. I'm always high functioning. So I could be very, very sad, but nobody would know it because I could just put the switch on and just function. And for 3 years, I functioned that way. But secretly, bro, I was doubting everything. I was depressed because, midlife hits you and you're like, well, I should have more money now. I should have a house by now. My kids are getting older. What's going to happen? And all these different things. And I'm like, God, I started this church and for you, and yet I don't feel taken care of. This guy's over here flourishing, that person's flourishing, or you invest all of this emotion in somebody and then they go to a different church, you say something wrong, and then they're gone. And I was depressed, so ready. In fact, I was like having suicidal ideation to the point where I was like, I'm so disconnected because I didn't feel God's presence. I didn't feel like a certain closeness at all, that I was just ready to throw in the towel. I didn't, because I met somebody who on a fly fishing trip. So this dude invited me out to a fly fishing trip after I met him in Breckenridge, Colorado, skiing. Like, black people don't ski. It was like, I was like, what are we doing? But I met this guy, and at the end of the week, I'll make it fast.
Oh, good.
He said, I was so depressed, bro. Like it was it was all these pastors and Christians and all this stuff on this trip. And I was feeling very unseen and invisible in this guy who had this large church, large influence and so on. He had some people praying for us. And at the end of the week, he said, hey, I gave your name to somebody on my prayer team. They don't know you, but I asked them if they have a word for you, to give it to you. And at the end of the week, the word for me was, wine fit for the king's table stays in the cellar the longest. I know where I've got you and you need to stay. And just like how with your mom, how you were like, only God could do, like, I believe that's like a fit word. Like you didn't even know maybe God to the depth that you wanted to, but you just kind of spoke something into her being, into her soul. That word came into my soul, like wine fit for the king's table stays in the cellar the longest. In other words, it helped me contextualize that darkness isn't always bad. That sometimes God disciples us with darkness to mature us and for us to come out on the other side. And that's what it felt like to me. God pulled me out of the cellar and put me on the table. So, yeah.
That's strong.
Thanks,
I
man.
love that. And I love the way you explain things too, man. I think that's one of your strongest attributes.
Thank you,
and it's
bro.
what drew me to you. It's your approach to preaching in general, right? I think that you do a great job of connecting like real life with the Bible is timeless, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
timeless biblical scripture.
Yeah.
But you make it very relatable to modern day. And I think a lot of churches and pastors, they kind of miss that mark because you're not reaching the masses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, ensure that your messages stay relevant, even if it seems like what the world is, I guess, maybe the world doesn't match up at times to what the Bible says, right? So how do you like stay in tune with modern day society when you're preaching?
I forget who it was that said you need to preachers need to preach with the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in another. And I think that's what I'm constantly doing, although it's more so like social media or something like that, where I'm like, okay, I'm always trying to feel what here's the thing for me, a major pulse for me preparing every week is I'm trying to preach to the cynical person. Now I am preaching to Christians, but I'm always like, you'll hear me say it like almost every week. Like if you're here and you're not sure where you land spiritually, if you don't believe in God yet, because I'm trying to think of the person that's like, oh, this is just bunk, or I'm going through crazy stuff, or here's what's happening in the world right now. It's tense with politics. It's tense with, social issues. If I could come to that and experience that as a human, me personally, how is God working and shaping my life personally, and how am I relating to, then on Sundays, I feel like I can help lift people up because I'm always asking 4 questions for every week. What do I want people to do? How do I want them to feel? What do they need to know? And if they're not a Christian, why should they care?
Are you looking to elevate your brand with captivating visuals and immersive sound? Look no further than the home of the No Snooze podcast, Kai Visions Productions, your go-to destination for cutting-edge audio and video production. At Kai Visions, we don't just create content, we create experiences that leave a lasting impact. From podcasts, YouTube variety shows, sleek corporate videos, to attention-grabbing promotional campaigns, our team of experts is dedicated to turning your vision into reality. Choose Kai Visions for a production experience like no other. It's time to make your brand known. Contact us today at kaivisions@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Kai Visions. Kai Visions Productions, where audiovisual excellence meets innovation. Now, back to the Epi. You said something, I think it was last week too. You said you can't hold God and a grudge
At the same time.
So you got to talk to me because I almost want to disagree with you. Because I'm like, yo, I love God, but I'm very tight. I'm very tight.
I love you,
know,
bro.
I mean, it's difficult. And I'll give you a specific example. So my daughter she's 4 years old,
Right.
and she struggles to like sleep in her own bed.
Mm-hmm.
She's been doing it and then creeps to me in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and I let her in and it's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes she really tests the waters.
Yeah.
Like she'll be sleeping, I let her fall asleep in my bed, and then, I'll carry
her
her
up.
in.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's smooth.
Yeah.
And other times it's not smooth.
Yeah.
And I turn up when it's not
Like
smooth.
she'll spaz and
And then I turn up even more.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So like for me in those moments, Jesus goes bye-bye.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I can't it's something that I'm working on so much, man. But like in that moment, I still love God, but that grudge or whatever that is still there. Talk to me a little bit. And again, this is not even for the listeners. This is for me, right? I need to be better in these moments.
Yeah.
So not having God and a grudge at the same time.
Well, I would define a grudge as a longer period of carrying unforgiveness. And so I think what you're describing is probably the reaction of every dad, especially girl dads, with trying to help your kids mature, which is getting into your own space and becoming comfortable with it. But I think more often than not, well, if you're, sitting with that for a while, like, oh man, I just can't, she's getting on my nerves, then that's a grudge. Like if you can't let her go, about it. And I think it's outstretched arms, which we see in the picture of Christ being crucified, can't hold a grudge. I think it's one of the things that is so in the narrative of, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Not everybody knows. So she doesn't really know what she's doing in some ways. And so the ethos of a follower of God is quick forgiveness, man. Like, thin heart, thick skin. It's just like learning how to really be like, forgiveness is not about keeping score. It's about losing count. And if we always have a scoreboard or some Excel spreadsheet with all of the offenses that we have, man, we're not going to be healthy people. And so that's why I always tell people you can't hold God in a grudge at the same time. You got to let one go. And the best one to let go is the grudge.
All right, I'll work on it. I can't promise.
It's a process, right? It's progress, man, not perfection.
Yep. This is just more like, I guess, personal development. You have to be huge into preparation, man. Like preparation is a big skill, whether it's something like I'm doing today, right? Like being able to come prepared for an interview that you have, whether you're interviewing at a job, whatever it is. You show up every week on fire, even when you're not feeling on fire, I'm sure, right? Because the reality is there's no way that you can be on fire every single Sunday, 100%. Right? What are some tools and tactics that you utilize to like prepare such a strong message every week?
I think that public communication is like, if you're going to be a really great communicator, you have to have a good pantry. So I'm always thinking, I know things that I'm going to preach in November from now, or at least topics. So I'm like, I'm just constantly saving things and putting things in files that I'm not going to use for now. But when it's time to cook, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly. I need the paprika over there. I need the pepper. I've already stored it away. So to me, it's the classic John Maxwell thought: when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. So I'm always overstuffing content and reading things and clipping things and listening to great conversations like what I'm having with you. And I'm just marking things. And I think you have to be alive to everything in the world, right? Like the Mufasa thing last week, right? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about these things and I'm stocking experiences away because life is constantly happening. The way I feel about this room, our interaction today, like I'd probably tuck this away somewhere about you're remembered more by your exits than your entries. And I could talk about the whole conversation that we had, how we triangulated it. Everything gets stocked and stored away in this pantry in my head and on my my iPhone. And plus you got to just be addicted to it. I love communicating to people. I enjoy the days that I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm just feeling sunk. But you walk into a room and there's people that want to hear something. I feel like I get to be a steward of, saying something. So it's all about a pantry. You got to be stuffing all the time. I love what you do. I love watching your Instagram, because one of the things that you do that's great and what makes you a great leader and somebody that like I would follow, because I see like you're underlining things, you're writing things, you're pulling a nugget out, right? You're reading with a third eye. It's like how comedians are great. Comedians are great because they have a third eye. They can sense pain and they can see the thing that nobody else sees. And that's what you have to do to be a great communicator. You have to just be really aware, underline things and write it down and store it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because even the Bible's hard, man. Like it's tough to read. You have to almost be receptive. Sometimes I find myself almost not fully locked in the way that I should be.
100%. Go read Leviticus. You'd be like, yo.
Yeah. And then the verbiage that's used is like not everyday verbiage. So it's like kind of hard to understand. But my goal when I read the Bible, I don't know if this is right or wrong by any means, I just want one takeaway.
Sure.
Like one takeaway, right? And that's what I really focus on, because when I used to read, I would just be reading to try to like regurgitate everything. Whereas now that's not the case at all for me.
Do you read in any other translations?
In any other translations?
Yeah, like so. I don't know what Bible.
So it's NLT, New Living Testament.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
NLT. That's the one that I use on Sundays.
Every Man's Bible.
Yeah,
is what I use.
I use that translation on Sundays. But sometimes reading like the translation called The Message from Eugene Peterson puts the tough stuff in very everyday language. So I kind of read both. I read multiple translations because sometimes I'm reading the scripture, I'm like, that is heavy. But reading multiple translations helped me to get to the point.
I am curious because the gentleman that I listed before, Pastor Thorpe, Pastor Gilliam, yourself, any pastor that I follow, it's like, how many times have you read the Bible? Because I try to read, I ask, I'm like, God, just please put this word into me so I never forget it. And then sure enough, I flip out on my daughter when she can't go to sleep. How many times do you have to read something? And do you also believe that like Talk to me about like discipleship.
Sure.
Right. That's kind of where I'm going. Like, how do you know that you're meant for this? Because it's a large ask. And how do you know that, like, okay, the mistakes that I made in the past don't qualify for who I am today? And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a nobody, right? You can change your life.
Of course.
But when it comes to like the biblical thing and really being able to interpret that, do you think that God has his hand on that for individuals to understand?
Yeah, I think we understand through, it's like what I was saying a little bit earlier. Sometimes we think about our faith and we don't understand that we have to have our faith grow with other people that are challenging and discipling us. Number one, I think too many people read the Bible, but they don't memorize the scriptures. And the Bible is a living thing. So David, who was an ancient king in Israel, says, your word I've hid in my heart so I don't sin against you. The more I tell people sometimes, you don't really believe what you can't retrieve. So you got to stuff it away so that you can say it at the right time. You meditate on God's word. The word meditate usually in the Old Testament is like an image of a cow chewing on grass and just kind of like regurgitating it. I think that's why a lot of people mess up, because they don't memorize it. Now, you can't memorize a whole book.
I mean, I was going to say, bro, this thing is thousands of pages.
No, but you just got to get a couple of key verses, like, that you just locked in. Especially, getting a life verse is a good thing. My life verse is Psalm 138, verse 8, the Lord will perfect that which concerns me, or the Lord will fulfill his purposes for me. So anytime I'm going through stuff, like, I've got that hidden down in my heart, like I could pull it out at any time. And I think if the word of God is a sword, a weapon, this type of thing, you got to know how to use your weapon.
A life verse.
Yeah.
I love that. So I also offer coaching. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm big in the coaching space and leadership space.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do is I create mission statements.
Right.
And I help individuals create mission statements. Right. Like, so mine is to live in alignment and become the most disciplined and consistent version of myself as a father, man of faith, businessman, and partner.
I love that.
Right.
Bro.
So that's like my mission statement. What I need to do is add a life verse.
Yeah, man.
Because when I read, you're talking to me, because when I read, I don't memorize.
Yep.
I, like circle things, and I post it on Instagram, and I post it on Instagram actually for me.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Because it makes me really dive into that text, you know, and then I just share what I'm kind of doing with everybody, because look, people are going to judge you regardless.
Right.
And it's funny because I remember so many people being like, oh, yeah, you got to go find God. You got to go find. Cool. Now I found him. Now there's people like, oh, you're not really about God.
Yeah.
All right, bro. I can't meet everybody.
Win. It's
right?
like whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that makes a lot of sense, man. A life verse. That's a very tangible takeaway for me to try to dive in and apply a little bit more.
Yeah.
What would you say is one piece of like Bible wisdom that you believe everybody in society today should be aware of, right?
That's an interesting question. That they should be aware of?
Yeah, like I was looking at, and again, this was me reading, right?
Yeah.
But Proverbs 16,
Yep.
commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established.
Love that, yeah.
If I knew that earlier,
I get on it.
I would have done that. Right? Because that's literally just telling me everything I need to know. If I commit my life to the Lord, then the plans that I have for myself will begin to come to fruition.
Yeah. I think, I'm glad you cited a proverb. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him and he'll direct your path. I wish society knew that you don't have to trust in money, your own logic model, your own ability, even in your peer groups. But if you trust the Lord and you don't lean to your own understanding, because that's the temptation of every human, right? My own understanding. I need to figure this out. Why does this work this way? So on and so forth. But in all your ways, acknowledge God. So in every way, my weaknesses, my habits, my hangups, my failures, my strengths, I just acknowledge God. He'll direct my path. And my path is not for me to necessarily, navigate on my own. But when God does it, my path's always going to be lit, even when there's times of darkness. And I think that it's that Proverbs 3:5 that I think I wish society knew. Trust in the Lord. He'll direct your path.
That reminds me, and now like you're talking about the pantry, so I'm going to go into my pantry.
Yeah.
Pull it out. Finding calm in the chaos.
Yes.
Right. And
the alliteration's cool, by the way.
if you look at like even a storm, a hurricane,
Yep.
right? hurricane, there's 120-mile-an-hour winds. Roofs are being blown off and trees are falling everywhere.
Yep.
But right in the middle of that hurricane or that tornado, they call it what? The eye of the storm.
Eye of the storm.
And now the eye of the storm is very calm.
Yeah.
You can actually stand in the middle and like nothing is really going on in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But all around you and all your circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really rough and
Yeah.
tough. And I believe that God wants us to get quiet, like I was saying, find that eye in the storm, lean into him, and allow that to kind of move your faith needle forward. That's what it's done for me.
Yeah. And I can see that, there's fruit in your life as a result of that, especially if because storms are going to come and go. So are you prepared for what's next, right? When opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. It's why spiritually speaking, we need, a pantry so that when I get to a situation, I'm not like, oh my God, how did this happen? No, I'm prepared for the circumstances that we go through in life. So real leaders are people that are constantly rooting themselves in something larger than themselves. And when you get in the soil of, divinity, when you get into the soil of saying, I'm going to be rooted, planted, the beautiful thing about the Christian scriptures is that it doesn't avoid suffering. It actually embraces suffering. It says things like, hey, unless you die in the soil, you're not going to bear fruit anyways. So I love the tension of the suffering that cause I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. One of the reasons why I'm a Christian today is we always say, well, why does good things happen to bad people? I'm a good person. I think the scriptures show why did something bad happen to a perfect person and how he overcame it. I think that's pretty cool.
Now it's funny, my eyes lit up here because I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
And when you were saying it, in my instinct, I felt like, wow, I don't agree.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what about the baby who gets diagnosed and the family that can't have children,
Sure.
right? Like I think about that. And then when you made that analogy about the perfect person,
Yeah.
Jesus, right? There was only one perfect person.
Yeah.
And look what was done to him.
Yeah.
It really, I was like, he won. He won. All right. This is what I do on Sundays. Like, I don't even know if you can see the individuals in the crowd.
Oh, I
like
can.
like when you did that, I was like, this dude, all right, he won. Because sometimes I'm like, where you going with this one? But it's good. I want to transition you to marriage and family a little bit, man.
Let's go.
So you've been married to your beautiful wife, Classy, for 25 years.
25.
God bless.
That ain't no joke.
What has been the secret, really, to maintaining, and you can't say God, to maintaining such a strong and loving relationship?
First one is laughter. I think you got to laugh a lot. You got to be, and having I kind of have a dark sense of humor. So I think I can laugh at a lot of dark things that we've gone through, and we keep a lot of joy in our marriage as a result of laughter, right? Like we get on each other's nerves, we work together, which is really tough at times, but laughter has been the killer app for me. I think secondarily, we've kept attracted to each other, right? Like there's chemistry. We keep some of the same interests, right? Like we haven't lost the ability to have zest and vibrance and intimacy and all of that stuff. Like we're kiddish, she's girlish still. I'm boyish. we know how to be impulsive and to, just go have fun. Like we don't take ourselves that serious. So I think it's those two things.
I love that. Talk to the gentlemen specifically who are struggling with commitment issues.
Yeah.
Society can really, paint the false picture, because if you look at like Instagram, it's like cool to be with multiple women. It's cool to be running around. Whereas I feel the complete opposite. I think
100%.
it's harder to be with one woman, but it's very commendable.
Yeah.
And it's a badge of honor, whether you're married or just in a committed relationship. I think that's where the majority of, if I look at successful individuals, the majority of them are in committed relationships.
Yes.
They're not running around doing the typical thing. What would you say to the dude that's really struggling with commitment issues?
Bro, it's time to lock in and lock it down, because in all of the variety that you think, whether that's, different chicks and this, that, and the other, all of that stuff is so fleeting. And the older you get is the more you see that is such unfulfilling life, really. And the earlier you lock it in and lock down and find the person that's going to be compatible for you, because all that stuff trickles into other areas of your life. And most men are always trying to build in a moment what they should be building over a lifetime. You need to be a person that says, I'm going to be committed to one person. I'm going to be devoted. And that means it's going to be tough. It's going to take discipline, but it is the most fulfilling and rewarding, particularly if you're going to have children, to be totally locked into one person. Well, men are missing a culture of loyalty right now. It's a big deal. It's like we're a little bit too divided, and particularly when it comes to the pursuit of women. And if you have commitment issues, it probably has something more to do with what's happening inside of you, your fear of being smothered, your fear of being seen. Because part of having multiple girlfriends is that nobody gets to really know you. Nobody gets to call you out. Nobody gets to root you down. You become a chameleon for whoever you're with instead of being devoted to somebody that's going to be able to see the full you.
I love that. And you're speaking to me, and I was in a committed relationship for a really long time. I was married young. Made a lot of mistakes along the way for sure. But then there was a period of time that I was also single and not committed to anybody.
And none of them knew you.
Right. Like I didn't let anybody in the way that now, like I'm very blessed to have my beautiful girlfriend, who I see all the things with. Right. But also even for me, I'll be very transparent. Like it gets kind of scary thinking about that, especially when you come off of like, a failed relationship. It's hard, but like I do think that's where like God really can center it all for you. And I've found somebody that like, she'll tell you that I'm very stubborn, which I am, but also she's pretty stubborn too. She's a little impatient too. A little impatient too, baby girl. So, like I feel like a lot of guys, you can be like, well, she crosses off the majority of my boxes. But for me, I notice now that like temporary emotions are not a box. For me, it's the values, the characteristics, the character of the individual, the alignment with the faith. Like we got to start looking at the big things. And when those big things line up, go into it.
Yeah. Like who is perfect and who's going to have all the boxes checked anyway? Really, like we're all going back to dust. Gravity is affecting every last one of them. So you look at a person, you have to have natural chemistry and attraction. I hear some of these guys, especially some of these dudes that are Christian dudes, like, oh man, she prays a lot and she's devoted to church. Like, dude, do you think she's attractive? Like, you think all that prayer and all that stuff is going to keep your marriage for 15 years? Stop playing yourself. There's all of those things are important. However, the true test of real maturity is saying you don't have to be amazing in every area, that we are together for the mutual partnership for us to become who God has designed us to be. God designed a man and a woman to be together in a relationship so that they can help each other become the best version of what he's designed. And when you look at relationships as partnership to head toward being the best version of each other, it's amazing because then I can't be complete without you. I can't be what God has designed me to be unless you are the sandpaper that's rubbing away at the tough edges of my life. Gotta have it.
Yeah, no, I'm processing and taking it all in.
Yeah.
You're a father as well.
Yes.
2 teenage, beautiful daughters, right?
One's actually 21 now. I gotta update my bio. Yeah, she's 20. She's 21. She'd be upset if I told her she was a teenager.
I apologize.
No,
What's her name?
Good. Haley.
This is Haley.
Yeah.
Haley, I apologize.
Shout out Haley.
And Riley's the other one, right?
Riley's the other one. She's a teenager.
Okay, all right. So we'll keep her in her teenagers. But how has being a dad shaped your understanding of God as a father?
Oh, that's amazing that you asked that question because my dad and I, which I talk about my trauma too much with my dad. Shout out to my pops though. Jamaican pops is, doing his thing, but we had a lot of absence growing up. So I felt very unfathered when I was growing up. I've been brothered very well, So I have an affinity for men that lead and are strong and go after it. So I have come to understand God better after having children because now I realize what it feels like to care for something that has come from you in a way that is otherworldly. Like And then it helps you with like even things like, all right, when you think about your own sin and your own failures, right? I don't remember what my kids did when they were 7 years ago when they were 7 years old or 7 years ago that they did that bothered me. Like, I'm not keeping a record. I'm not keeping an account. I love them. And there's nothing that they could do that I wouldn't try to help them and defend them and fight for it. And all of these feelings that you have, even like, when the care that you're picking up your child, right? That image of you taking up your daughter and putting her in her own bed, and the joy that you get from just even watching your kids sleep. So sometimes I even think about when I'm sleeping, God is just kind of looking over me like, man, that's my boy. He crazy, but that's my boy. I have learned so much from being. It's like when I was up there that week spazzing. Remember that week I was preaching? I was talking about my daughter, and she was sick.
Oh,
And,
yes.
oh my God. Even the pain. Think about that. So my daughter was sick, and it felt like there was nothing I could do. How do I understand God the Father? God knew that his children were sick with sin, but there was something that he could do. So he sent his son to cure us of our. So it's all these correlates now that I read the scripture, because I understand it as a father, that you'll do anything for your kids.
Why don't you
Anything.
share that story, actually? That's a great one.
Yeah,
I think all people should hear.
Part of my depression for those 3 years is during that time I'm starting this church. We're trying to reach people and all this stuff. I'm working like 4 jobs, which is lazy for a Jamaican, and so I'm working on these, and my daughter gets really ill, really, really ill. And I'm out also preaching, itinerant preaching and stuff like this. And I'm telling the guy that I'm supposed to speak for that my daughter's in the hospital. I got to get back. And he's more worried about the people that are coming to hear me speak in this dumb youth rally or whatever, and wanted me to pay him back for the airplane tickets and all this stuff. It was just horrible. So these are the things that I'm like, hey, God, if that's your guy and that's how your people operate, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. It's like one of those things where I'm like, do I really want to do this? But she was so sick and had to have, she had developed this thing called plastic bronchitis, which allows your lungs to, like, your body can't trigger to stop producing mucus in your lungs. So it's like you're just constantly under the threat of pneumonia. So they would have to either suck it out or, do these different things. And then it affected other parts of her body. I'll never forget, like, being at the hospital in Manhattan, and they had to give her like what would be sort of like an epidural, because she had so much pain. So she's like leaning over, and they're putting, this in, and she's like stretching her hand out. Daddy, please don't let them do this. Daddy, please don't let them do this. I'm just weeping and crying. And that picture and video I showed is her with tubes down her body, a PICC line in her arm to deliver the medicine. And it just shattered me. Because, I mean, I could get emotional to talk about it right now because, your kids are so fragile. They're so small, and I couldn't do anything. And if there's anything a person wants to do is rescue, save, pull out, and I had no agency whatsoever to do that. But thank God she came through it, and the Lord helped her, and doctors helped her too, because I believe in miracles, but I also believe in medicine, right? So it's not people are like, I need a miracle. No, dog, you need insurance. Like God uses that too, bro.
See, this is a perfect example of why I love Wayne Francis, because you do things like that make people realize, like, all right, like, he's also a real guy too. Like,
100%.
you know what I mean? You can't just be on, and yes, of course it's, we stay biblical, right?
Yeah, right?
But also, like, God placed these things on the planet
100%.
for us to utilize.
Somebody got debt because they went to school for like 90 years to learn how to do that surgery. I need the surgery, bro. God can use that too. So it's like, let's go.
It's so true. For me, with that specific thing with the father, talking about the father, like, there's a great analogy that I constantly think about. And it's like, if my child constantly asks me, Daddy, on Friday, can we go get pizza? Right? A week in advance.
Yep.
And I say, baby girl, like, have a strong week and I'll take you to get pizza. And now 4 hours later, she says, Daddy, can we go get pizza on Friday?
Yeah.
I say, baby, I just told you that. The next day, she asked me again, Daddy, can we get pizza on Friday? Baby girl,
Yeah.
Stop asking me now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of us, me included, what I used to do is pray for the exact same thing every single day.
Yep.
God told me it's already done.
Yeah.
So I need to start thanking him
Right.
and praising
That's where it's
him
at.
versus just sitting there asking for the same thing
100%.
again. Because if my daughter asks me for that pizza one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. Right? And that
100%.
analogy for me, like, it's already done.
Yeah.
So now once you ask for it, start thanking him for it. Now also pair that with the actions in the flesh to move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a great way to explain it. Like, you were on your theology game right there. That was strong, my guy.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
But that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I need to make those correlations, like me as a father, right? Like, that's a very good understanding.
stop. Yeah.
Like, yo, it's already been done.
And again, you probably wouldn't have that revelation at times without being a parent. And like, if you're single and you're listening in the audience right now, you're like, well, I don't have any kids. I don't understand that. I think it's just something to look forward to if you're a person that's saying, hey, one day I'd like to have children. I think you could still understand God without having children, but something does happen when you have like the perspective of offspring to you just kind of get a little bit of that third eye that I was talking about with comedians.
I want to ask you a tough question.
Let's go.
And this is a real tough question,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like the other nonsense that I bagged you on for
I'm
not
ready.
communicating that you weren't going to show up to church, the Life Church, for 4 weeks and be hanging out with Mufasa. 3 weeks. You're right. So I have a good friend of mine
Yeah.
who is also identifies as gay,
Yep.
right? And now we were talking about church.
Yeah.
And again, I want to be very clear. I support the
No, it's okay.
LGBTQ
Yeah.
community.
course.
I'm a lover of people.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of whatever you do in your personal life, like if
Yeah.
we vibe, we vibe.
Yep.
He was basically saying to me that, like, well, I'm not welcomed in the church.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why is that?
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's not biblical. My family doesn't really accept me for who I am. So why would the church? What would you say? And I couldn't really, like, I was like, oh, okay. But like, I know like my church would accept you,
100%.
but there are churches that would not accept you because it's not biblical.
Yeah.
Right? What's your take on that? And how do you, like, I guess, draw somebody in who's like questioning that because they feel that their current way of living life is not biblical?
Yeah. I want to be very humble about that because in many ways, right, like the church has done, the capital C church has done a poor job in allowing people that identify as gay to feel welcome in churches where heterosexuals have a whole lot of issues that they got to work through in many churches. So to your friend and to anybody that is gay that has felt like, you know, shut off by a church, I can understand the hesitation and I can understand maybe a little bit of the, like, I know what the deal is. I think my level, if you want to say, of pushback is I don't think any of us should identify primarily through who we're attracted to. So the idea of just saying, well, my sexual identity or my ethnic identity, I don't like the hyphenation that our culture is, addicted to. I'm a this Christian, I'm a that this, or I'm a this. I don't think our primary identity comes from our sexuality. I think it comes from I am a child of God, made in the image of God, and who I'm attracted to is a secondary issue. And so I feel like you need to find a community that says, hey, everybody is welcome. Sinners are all welcome of different stripes and so on. Now, the second thing that you have to contend is, and this is the logic model, going back to that Proverbs 3 verse 5, is that the Bible does speak to all of our sexuality in a way that is going to confront you. So listen, I'm gonna just keep it a buck, right? I'm a married man for 25 years. My nature is not to have one wife. My nature is to have multiple women if I could. The Bible tells me that that's wrong and that I have to surrender and submit to it. I don't have to like it, but I got to surrender and submit to it. And I think that it's the better way, that Christ calling us to monogamy is the right way. So the bigger question for a person that's struggling with whatever level of their sexuality, gay, transgender, heterosexual, is, can God, or will you allow God to direct your sexuality? Will you allow God to help you move in a direction that he says is healthy? That's the bigger question. Welcome stuff, man. If you're looking for a place to turn up, 275 Mamaroneck Avenue in in Westchester County, the Life Church. We don't care what you are. Show up on Sunday. You're going to have a great time and learn how to grow spiritually.
Very fire.
Was that okay?
No, that was great. I like that. Because it's a tough question, and I don't know if every pastor would answer it and lean into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, I've been reading, like, there was
I got gay people in my family.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So, my nephew is gay, and I've got a lot of gay friends and so on. And there's gay people at our church right now,
right.
On Sundays that are there every week, and they are growing spiritually. And you got to put yourself in a safe place where you can ask questions and be who you are, right? Like, you got to get yourself in a safe place spiritually. However, the Bible will contend against every area of our life. It is going to challenge heterosexuals, gay people, transgender people. And the question is, can we submit to what the Bible's teaching us?
Shout out to Yorktown Jewelers, the best in the game, serving Westchester for over 16 years. This family-owned business is built on a foundation of respect and honesty. Run by a father and son team, Myron and Mike, both men are rooted in strong morals and integrity, making them a trusted name in the community. Whether you're looking for timeless pieces or something unique, Yorktown Jewelers offers exceptional quality, a wide selection, and unbeatable pricing. When you shop here, you're not just getting great value. You're supporting a business that truly cares about its customers. For all your jewelry needs, head to Yorktown Jewelers, where trust, craftsmanship, and service shine bright. How do you, balance now the church and business? Right? Like, because at the end of the day, the church is, it is a business.
It's an organization.
It's an organization, right? So, like, how do you balance that? And I guess, how do you just manage that in general? Right? Like, it's two completely separate things, but it's two very important things.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's how I look at leadership and leading an organization. You need people on your team that are telescopes. They're big vision. They look at things and they set the standard of where we're going, right? Like, I'm a telescopic leader. I'm usually high vision. Then you need people that are microscopic. These are usually your administrators, your finance people. They're into protocol and so on. They look at all the details. They determine if cancer is going to come and affect the petri dish and so on. Then you need a kaleidoscope leader that's around you, that's creative. They help you understand and look at the world and see opportunities. So leading an organization is all about building the right team so that you could default your weaknesses to. I do not like high levels of minutia and administration, but because I lead a church, there's protocols, finances that are coming in, staff and all this stuff, that I have to have a level of agency and competency to look at spreadsheets and look at, especially what I do is a lot different than what people do, because our whole organization is run off of volunteer giving. So it's not like I can just say, this is what's going to happen. I have to trust that God is building his church and people are going to be generous. So in organizations that, they're selling a product or they're doing something, you can actually have a more rigid budget. A lot of what we do is by faith and by estimation, looking at different things. This amount of people's coming to church. This is the amount of people that are coming. And so we just steward what we have. So it's a lot more difficult because motivating volunteers to do the work is important, right? They have to believe in something bigger than themselves. But everything about leading a church is about having the right team. People are gifted in areas of business. I have some people in our organization, they have extremely powerful financial minds. So we're able to save and steward and do things like, purchase the building that we're in right now and all the different things like that. It is me, though, that has to always look at reports. I have to test the pulse of where things are going at so that I can forecast where we're going and what we're doing. And that's what sometimes people are like, well, what do you do all week? I'm like, I'm not just sitting here writing sermons, bro. Like, there's a whole lot. We got, how much money we spend on toilet tissue? We're looking for deals. That's what we're doing. We're looking to figure things out. The lighting costs money, this and that. All these different things are very complicated during the week that we have to steward.
And you guys do a wonderful job. It's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
It's very welcoming, very aesthetically pleasing as
thank
well.
you.
I've been in that building many times before. So I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York.
Oh, so there was the
right?
CVS?
But I wasn't going to Mount Vernon schools at a certain age.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So my auntie lived in Mamaroneck. So I
Yeah.
stole her address.
So I did that too. You're a border jumper?
Yeah.
Yo, I did that too. So I lived in the Bronx and I graduated from White Plains High School. That's how I got involved with the White Plains.
We'll tell you now.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But back then you were like,
No.
I had to remember
how many
like
times
Henry
I
Avenue,
lied?
Mamaroneck. Yeah.
People like, hey, Wayne, we want to come over your house. I'm like, nah, man, my dad's terrible, bro. You don't want to come to my house.
So yeah, that used to be a CVS, and I would run around Mamaroneck with my friends, and we'd go down to the harbor, and I was in that building many times, which is I'm just kind of like tying that all together now. I knew that it was the CVS, but also my grandfather was a sergeant in Mamaroneck for a long time. My father grew up in Mamaroneck, so there's heavy ties to
Wow,
to
that's
Mamaroneck.
so cool.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back, bro.
Yeah, right? Thank you. Talk to me a little bit about your book, man. Make friends with everyone.
Yeah.
So this is a bold statement. Make friends with everyone.
Yeah.
What's the message of the book?
That you cannot enjoy the best of God without enjoying the best and worst of each other. That the primary ethos of God is to elevate a theology of friendship. That Jesus comes on earth, and the first thing he starts doing is making friends, right? And recruiting them to do ministry with them. Profound word, which is so different from many of the people that have claimed to be God. He comes and says, hey, I'm not going to call you servants anymore. You're my friends, right? Old Testament, we find out that Abraham is considered the friend of God, right? God's nature is to have friendship. In fact, let's go a little bit further on this. Adam and God are chilling. God's walking in the cool of the day with him, and he looks at Adam, and there's no sin in the world. There's no issues. And he says, man, it's not good for you to be alone. You need a friend. And not just me. You need a friend. I'm going to make you a woman. And I think friendship is the killer app. There's a loneliness epidemic in the United States and around the world, and it's because we don't know how to make great friends, particularly men. Men have a real hard time having transparent, accountable, go 100%, say it real honest type of friends. And I hope that this book will give people a rubric on how to develop great friendships and when to end friendships too. Because a lot of us think that, ending friendships is really bad, but to really be a great friend, sometimes you have to end friendships too. I'm going to say this in the book, but sometimes you have to end a friendship for you to become a better friend to who's next.
I think that concept doesn't just apply to friendships. That's also relationships too, intimate relationships too, right?
Right.
As you were saying that, man, I got the chills a little bit. One, because it's freezing in here. Do you feel that? I see Wayne sitting on his hands.
Yeah, my
and stuff.
toes are like this. They're curled up right now.
I asked you if you wanted the heat on
At
before.
first, I was good because I'm in this big, thick, buffalo plaid flow. I'm like, we good, but it's a little bit brick.
No, but what you were saying about creating that space for men, that's what we do. My partner and I, Sean Degnan with Action Cultivates
Shout
Excellence.
out Sean. I met him. I like that guy.
Absolutely. And you got ties to his fiance, Jackie Gigante.
We got invited to the wedding. So thank you.
Hey, you know who's doing the wedding?
Ooh,
Me.
Como say dice, that's so dope. My wife was just telling me about the wedding.
So, fun fact about me is I'm actually an ordained minister.
Let's go.
Since 2021.
Let's go. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So basically we're the same, right?
Yeah,
El Pastor, El Minister, same thing.
Yeah, I like it. That's great.
So what we do is that like we believe that we have the ability to tie vulnerability and masculinity, blend them together, and that's today's strongest man.
Yeah.
So we've created a space for that, and I'm excited to dive into your book and read into that. When does that come out?
It'll come out next year. I'm writing it now, and my manuscript is due in July, and it'll come out at the top of the year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Pray for me. I got a lot of writing to do.
Yeah, man. No, that process, Sean and I are actually in the process of writing our own as well.
Oh, that's great.
So, we're literally writing it. Like, we're sitting on a Word document, like he's doing his pages, I'm doing mine. We haven't even talked to anybody yet.
Yeah.
But as we get further in the process, maybe we can have some
reach out to me.
Some conversations for sure.
If you want to publish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Where do you see yourself? I like to, we've pumped your strengths a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I want to know a little, here we go, man. I want to know a little bit about, where you see yourself continuing to grow as an individual?
I'm a recovering affirmation addict. And so I need to derive more of a sense of completeness, wholeness from who God is saying I am, and feeling okay. I'm really afraid to be alone in some ways. And so I'm kind of working on what it looks like to be content with my own presence. I feel very driven to always help people or to do something. I'm probably a little bit too addicted to movement. Man, I'm getting all, we talk about vulnerability. I'm just all like, just splurge everything out. I'm probably a little bit too addicted to movement. And I think that there's something powerful about rest and restoration, and Sabbathing, like really pushing into my creativity in a different way because of silence and contemplation. Like I'm getting into photography and stuff like that, like with just film photography, but my camera and stuff like that. And I think I just need to slow down. There's a piece of me that, as I'm getting ready to turn 50, that's like, yeah, I need higher levels of intentionality.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to question something for you because
Keep
I question it on myself.
Yeah.
The Bible is very specific about that seventh day being of rest.
Yes.
For you, that's probably your busiest day of the week.
100%.
Does the Bible have like contingencies? Because are you supposed to be resting as much as you're working on Sundays?
Yeah, no, I think a Sabbath doesn't have to be Sunday. I think it's whatever day you dedicate to the Lord of 24 hours of rest. So it could be Wednesday, it could be Friday.
Do you do that?
I try to do it on Friday. Fridays are my day off, but I'm not very good with always defending it. I need to do something different about defending it, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that. I could take that meeting. Oh yeah, that's the only day they could do it. And it's like I really just need to be like I'm off. Right?
Yeah,
like
I'm trash at that.
Yeah,
I mean I'm absolute basura for a lack of better word. CV, you must like all this Latina language going on here, right? Latino language.
Go,
Sorry.
Poppy.
But yeah, if I look at like a regular month for me, right? Like I work 5, 10, 15, 20 days, right? Just like most people do. And then I host 2 leadership events on the year.
Yep.
If we're talking about the month of April, I'll be speaking at a conference. I'll be recording 4 of our own podcasts.
Sure.
I'll be on 3 other podcasts.
Sure.
I make sure that I'll cook for my girlfriend once a week at least. I'll make sure that I take my daughter on a date.
Sure.
Like I'll make sure I work out 6, 7 days a week there.
Yep.
There's really no time for me there is time, but in my mind, there's no time for me to just stop and relax. And it's something that like, I don't know if you're familiar with these. Do you have a fitness thing on?
Yeah, I got the.
Yeah, so I wear the Whoop.
Yeah.
And a recovery is one of the main, it's like 3 pillars. You have strain, which is like your activity.
Yeah.
You have your recovery, and you have your sleep.
Yeah.
And based on those 3 scores, it gives you like your output for the day.
Okay.
My recovery is always trash.
Garbage.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we make time for what we value, and what we value we make time for. And I think I need to, and maybe we can challenge each other with some accountability on your podcast.
Let's rest.
We're gonna try to strategically rest better.
Okay.
For the next season.
That's so hard. That's like the hardest challenge ever. Like, let's just do nothing.
Yeah, it's like, but it's restorative, right? Or really Sabbath is about doing something that you love that's not work. So it could be like, oh, I'm going down to the city. I'm going to go to a museum. I'm going to go shop a little bit. Those are the things that feel restorative for me. It's not just like sitting around. Yeah. Sabbath is really, putting yourself in airplane mode to the distractions of the world, but that you're still active in a way that honors God, because he wants us. In fact, the Jewish people, they would make it a big deal where you eat your favorite food that day, or you delight in God in some way. So get out in nature, whatever. But it's not just like sitting around.
Yeah.
I just don't protect time with me, but what I want to do.
Right. All right. I respect that. You're big into business, man. You are, right?
Well, yeah, I try.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And
I lead our organization.
Yeah. You have a little entrepreneurial journey too.
100%.
I was told.
Yeah.
I was told by somebody to ask, what was your first business?
Yo,
what happened?
People are so savage. I need to get the internet scrubbed, or these people. There are people that or just, I don't know. Did you do this?
Why are you looking at me?
No, it was not Claudio. It was not Claudio.
It might have been Mel or somebody. I don't know who it was. Or somebody told you about the Reading Rainbow thing, didn't they tell you?
You're kind of walking down your own path. But listen, I think it's a good story that should be shared with the people. I don't know.
I do have entrepreneurial instinct that started. Oh my gosh.
I told you I do my research, man.
I don't know who
be
did
prepared.
but props to you. I got to give you props. To find that out is hilarious, man. I was in the South Bronx going to high school, and there was an entrepreneurs program in our class, and they told all the students to start a business, and they seeded it with like $200 or something like that. And so I started a business called Wacky Wayne's World of Wet and Wild Nail Polish.
That's a great name. It just kept going.
You are so savage, bro. I'm telling you, man. Oh my gosh. Man.
No, I love it.
So I started selling, nail polish in the South Bronx to ladies, and I beat everybody in my class. So you know what? As embarrassed as I am about it, I beat everybody in my class. So I won. And then I went to some entrepreneurial award ceremony for being the best. And Reading Rainbow was there, and I was on Reading Rainbow, and I'm embarrassed to this day that it's still on YouTube somewhere. You can see me in the hood hustling some magenta, some rose nail polish. Hey, it's so. You ain't right.
Yo, man, listen. If I would have remembered that, it would have been Wayne, the big nail polish, Francis.
I guess if I ever come back on this, I'm going to introduce myself.
No, man, that's a very funny story, but it's also good. I think it's a testament to who you are. Like, not everybody. How old were you when you did that?
I was 13.
Yeah. And now, do you think that's like from a culture? You mentioned Jamaican roots, right? Like you're just a hustler. And 100%. same for me, man. Like I had my first job when I was 11 at Fulton Flowers, so no better, right? They have the big flower shop, Regina. That's what you call me. I was loading it was a little bit more manly than that, but I was loading propane tanks into people's cars at 11, and then by 12 years old, I was caddying. By 13, I was catering as well. Like I was doing a lot of different things, man. But I think that's something that's like missed today, like with the youth. I actually had somebody come down to me in Greenberg, and she was like dying for me to give her child a job. And the kid was 13. I said, God bless you, finally.
Of
like,
course,
you know, I can't give him a job because it's government, but like,
let's get after it.
Yes,
I was 12, and I was working as a messenger in New York City. I was just about to turn 13. And, I'm walking around Manhattan at Bear Stearns and delivering packages and all that stuff. And then I guess watching my dad, who was an immigrant, start a bar. He had a bar. He had a grocery store in the Bronx. I think watching that helped me to say, well, yeah, in this entrepreneurs class, I was like, of course, I could start a business and a ledger and all that stuff. And then to start our church from scratch. Like we came to New York and dumped our 401k, our retirement, all our savings to launch a church. And now you see the fruit of it. But 15 years ago, it was like nothing. I mean, me and CV, we were out there working, hustling. There was just this little auditorium of people, and, it just takes grit. And I think learning how to sell nail polish in the hood helped me to, grow something to what we have right now. And you're humble.
Mm-hmm. How do you stay healthy, man? Talk to me about your little habits.
I'm trying to look like you, man. Like I'm just like, golly, man. I
didn't always look like this. Did you know that?
No.
Right. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 16 years old.
No way.
Yeah. So I
have a friend that has Crohn's.
Yes, it was crazy.
Have you had surgery?
No surgery, but I was in a pretty bad spot, man. I lost 40 pounds in 4 months. Back in high school, I used to walk around with toilet paper in my backpack.
Wow.
Yeah, would have to run off the court during a basketball game. Like it was bad.
Yep.
And I recently just had a colonoscopy that came back to.
I saw that.
Yeah, dude.
So that's the connection.
Yeah, but also you'll love this one. God is so good, my brother.
Everything came out fine.
God is so no, it didn't on the paper. And I shared this on a pretty recent podcast. On the paper, I'll show you the paper. It said high risk colon cancer because there was 6 colon cancer surveillance, right?
Yeah.
There were 6 polyps that came back, so they pulled all 6. And the doctor, you know, I was waiting for him to come back and say like, yo, man, you're absolutely crushing life right now. Like,
Right.
good job. I stopped drinking almost 400 days ago, over a year now.
Congratulations.
So I'm
man.
trying to thank you. I'm trying to do like all the things to, you know, make my life better. But as you mentioned, I also believe in medicine, and I've been on a great medication my whole life, you know, with the Crohn's for the past 19 or so years.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to hear really good things. He gives me this piece of paper, and me and my dad are like, oh, wow. My dad literally said to me, man, we got to up your life insurance policy.
Wow.
That was the first thing he was thinking about. And he was dead serious. One, because he sells insurance and he knows the importance of it.
Of course.
But it became very real. And then my doctor had me wait a week for these results, man. A whole week. Thank God I'm into leadership.
Yeah.
So long story short, they ended up coming back benign. And not only did they come back benign, he then goes to tell me, oh, that lesion that I thought could have been cancerous, it wasn't that. So you're in such a deep remission that I can't even detect the Crohn's disease. The next day after I get my results, here goes Joel Osteen talking about...
Shout out Pastor Joel. I think I'm going to send this podcast to Pastor Joel because you've mentioned him a couple of times.
But shout out to him because his message was so strong, and it said, have faith over facts.
Yes.
So here was the fact of me getting this high risk for colon cancer.
Yeah.
For then me to have such strong faith and knowing that God is so much stronger than any fact, right? So when I made that connection, I was like, wow, but it was not a coincidence that was the message that I listened to the exact day after I got my results.
Oh, man, that is so good. Wow. Thank God for that. You asked about fitness. I am currently on my Fit by 50 journey. I you know, it's so crazy because the older you get, that's why I was asking you your ages and stuff like that. The older you get, the more your body atrophies. So I'm in the gym, you know, 5 to 6 days a week, but I realize that, you know, while I have muscle and so on, you know, I'd like a flatter stomach, and, you know, everything's diet, man. Like, what am I eating? The time, not so much the times that I'm eating it, but, you know, sleep, rest, you know, active walking and all these things that I'm trying to do. So I'm really right now trying to work harder on being regimented with how I fuel my body and what I'm putting into it, what I'm eating and so on. Because it's not the physical thing. I'm in the gym once or twice a day, 5 to 6 days a week. I cycle and
you cycle, right? I was gonna say,
I cycle, and so I was in way better shape 2 years ago. I think I've been really stressed in the last 2 years, and there's a book that says your body keeps score, and I could tell that my body has been keeping score because I feel like the travel, different time zones, eating at a different time, and, you know, not coming home and being, maybe you can school me, you and Amanda, y'all gonna have to help me get right this year, because I want to, you know, just continue to feel confident. There's such a spiritual component with how you feel physically and look physically. There's a correlate to your spirituality, right? This is an interesting theological thing to study, that when you look through scripture, God is always described as strong. The Lord will save you with his strong right arm. You know, the government's on his shoulders. Like, you know, God is deadlifted. There's all of this imagery that I think has a correlate to how we steward the temple that God has given us. And too many Christians, you know, they come into church and they're like, hey, can you pray for me? You know, I have diabetes, and sometimes that's, you know, hereditary, but sometimes it's because you won't stop eating, you know, drinking 15 Cokes a day. Well, that's on you. You got to put in the right things in your body so that you have longevity. So long story short is your boy needs to be doing a little bit better on the eating side. It's not even eating junk. Like, I don't eat junk. I just think I eat at weird times and just not consistent, and I got to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all do, right? But also I would challenge that back to, like, I struggled with the same, and still do struggle with the same thing in my faith journey.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very disciplined and consistent when it comes to working out and my diet and all that.
Yeah.
But then faith for me was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But then when I made the connection, and I'm like, wait, if I could be doing the thing that my pastor is telling me is the hard thing about eating and being in the gym, like, I'm doing that piece.
Yep.
But why wouldn't you just take the same exact philosophy that you know to be true about what's guided you to your faith journey and the importance of discipline and consistency and just making the right decisions, right? Nobody knows everybody knows what we're supposed to do.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
for whatever reason, if I told you, yo, look, like give me the formula to lose 20 pounds, like you would give me the actual formula.
Right,
You'd be
right,
like,
right,
Dave,
right.
listen, like I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna hydrate and you know,
Yep.
I'm gonna eat at specific time frames and I'm gonna eat XYZ and I'm gonna work out for this many times a
100%.
week. You know what I mean? So I would challenge you to utilize what you already know and just
I
put it
know.
into practice.
Yeah, I had a rough year, and I need to I could feel like I gained weight. Like, man, where does 10 pounds come from? I used to be able to drop 10 pounds in no time, but I'm like, oh yeah, you're 49. So there's a recalibration that's going to have to happen so that, and then, there's that thing where you're like, I have an image of what I feel most comfortable at, my weight and how I look and all that stuff. And when I miss it, sometimes you can just kind of get like, am I really going to be able to do it? But you just got to put in the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. So I've been on this thing, my birthday's May 27th. I'm like, I'm going to be my fittest by back to where I feel most comfortable by May 27th.
There we go.
So
that was a you move, by the way. Sometimes when you preach,
I
and
know,
and you get going on Sunday, you went off.
I
I
did.
almost stood up and was like, "Oh my God!"
No, I don't know.
Oh, and by the way, you always say like, and I felt like you were jabbing me one time because you said, and hey, if the shoe fits, wear it, right? But you said, I want to see more of the big dudes in the audience, like with your hands up in worship. Yeah. I'm like, yo, do you know how big these arms are to hold up? Like, clearly you can't relate.
These are
Hey, no, that's good.
I'm
I see you.
I'm trying.
I see you, my brother. I see you.
I'm trying.
Dang, there was one thing that I wanted to touch on, and then here we go. I'm making fun of you again.
No, that's all right.
I guess give me one actionable piece of advice that you would give to someone listening right now, right?
Yep.
Like this podcast is called the No Snooze Podcast,
No
which is
snooze.
essentially a call to action. The first thing you see in the morning is that snooze button. So we believe that we do not snooze on life. We wake up and attack everything that we do. Someone who's feeling stuck in their faith journey and also in life. So give me two different pieces there.
If you're feeling stuck in your faith journey, the best thing to do to animate your faith journey is to not try to eat the whole elephant at once, but bite by bite. Coming back from Africa, it's kind of like that. I think we it's not how great you start, it's how great you end up. And so you have to start today. So it's like, you want to be healthy today? Well, start making healthy choices today. And I think with your faith journey, if you're stuck, today is the best day to start moving. How do you start moving? Well, it might be reading the scriptures, or it might be Googling different things about faith and so on. So that's number one. Number two was
Life.
life.
Just in life.
Oh, life. Here's really this is why I'm so committed to friendship. A lot of times when we're stuck is because we're around other people that are stuck. So to unstick yourself, get around some people that are moving, that want to move with you and are going to make sure that you don't get stuck. So I feel like if there's anything that you need to work on and do, is to get around some people that you admire that are moving in the right direction and tether to them. It's like this. In cycling, there's this principle called drafting. So when you're riding behind somebody, you can align with them in such a way where they're pulling you a little bit, and the draft lets you pedal a little bit easier for a little while. You don't have to really pedal as strong, but eventually you gain so much strength from just pedaling behind somebody that you could just pass them afterwards. That's what you need to do. You need to draft a little bit. You can't stop pedaling, and you got to stay locked in. A lot of things with cycling is you have to stay locked into the pedals and not just, some people use the little nets and stuff like that. You don't get the full performance of moving your body in the right direction until you lock in and you're clipped into the bike, and then you start moving and drafting. So that's probably the two things that came to my mind.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Did I always ask this question to people that I sit down with. Is there anything that we did not touch on today that you wanted to share?
No, because I love talking about friendship. I love talking about men leading. That's a big thing for me because I feel like there's such an absence of male leadership in our culture and in our churches. I'm always looking on every Sunday, like how many men are in the room. I want to make sure that there's a lot of guys, and I'm hoping that men will take the responsibility to recruit. That's one of the things I love about you and your whole community is that y'all have the mixture, the balance of lion and lamb. It's humility and it's hunger. It's those things. And I'm passionate about that. Of course, I'm passionate about the local church. I'm passionate about communication. I feel like we had a very robust conversation, talked about marriage and kids. You try to come at me about my nail polish business. Dang.
No, man, it was a truly wonderful, wonderful conversation, man. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to sit down next to greatness.
Hey, I feel the same way with you.
And I appreciate the, even the mentorship, man. Like,
Thanks,
I come to learn on Sundays, man.
Yeah.
And, I want to serve as well. So I want to, find ways for me to involve myself in what we're doing.
Yep.
I want to encourage everybody, if you have not checked out the Life Church in Mamaroneck, right outside New York City, over here in Westchester County, please do so. I bought a Jewish friend of mine, Oren Schneider, who is actually a guest on the podcast as well. I brought him to service. You met him. And he had the time of his life, man. He loved it. I brought my father, who's Catholic.
Yeah.
All walks of life are welcome in that church. And I want to say that to you guys, because if you are thinking about it and you're here in Westchester or a surrounding area, it's definitely a place that you want to come check out. Do not overfill the 1 p.m. service, because that is my time to be there. Okay.
It was pretty full this Sunday too.
It is jumping. And I hope that, since we've been coming and putting this out there, I hope more and more people come.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you've done to use your platform and your influence, your Instagram, to bring visibility to what we're doing. I don't take it lightly. And I just want to let you know, and all your listeners know, that, you are an admirable person, that you're living what you're talking about on this podcast. And I'm very inspired by you. And I'm so grateful that I get to do life with you in some measure.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that. If you would just kindly look into that camera and let everybody know where they could find you, find the church, find your book, whatever you want to connect them to.
Wayne Francis on Instagram, WayneFrancis, not with an E-I-S. Wayne Francis on Instagram. I'd love for you to follow us at Leadership in Black and White. That's a podcast that I do with my pastor. The book, which is called Make Friends with Everyone, is coming out next year. But if you'd like to follow along on that journey, it's a great place on Instagram to find me there. And if you want to hear some of my sermons, things that I'm preaching, you can go to thelifechurchnewyork.com.
Beautiful. Wayne, thank you again, my brother. Again,
Hey.
Gratitude.
My man.
Gratitude, my brother.
Gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Guys, we really appreciate you, and we're grateful for every single one of you guys listening, whether you listen to one episode or 216. We ask that you continue to share this show. That's how we've grown. That's how we've become a top 10% podcast on Spotify in 2024. Shout out to you behind the scenes, my brother CV, always on his ones and twos.
My boy, from back in the day.
So you can check out the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. And until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
And take your behind to the Life Church in America, baby. There we go. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's another epi in the books. You can follow us on Instagram at No Snooze Podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. Come on.